Trey Benson is the martyr for stash running backs. You saw the fab get blown, and now you understand why it's important to have one or two stash running backs, because once one gets anointed, they get expensive off the waiver wire. But if you already had him, he's free, he's cheap. You do whatever you want. Buy, sell, hold, trade, whatever you want. Blake Corum is the next stash running back we're doing a deep dive on today to see whether or not you want to stash him for your fantasy football team, the strategies, everything involved, the good, the bad, the ugly. Before we dig in, though, you need to click that subscribe button right now, because we're doing deep dives every single day, looking at what your players are doing behind the scenes, advanced analytics, helping you set your lineups by looking at all the matchups, and then we're going deeper on the waiver wire than anybody else. We might have did like 6 or 7 videos on top of deep diving the waiver wire prospects. Click that button. Stop missing out. But starting off, Kyren Williams is the man. Nothing against Kyren Williams in this video. There's no hate speech on Kyren Williams in this video. He has helped the channel because there was a gap in content when it comes to lottery ticket, deep stashes for traditional fantasy redraft football here, where you need to strategize your bench a little bit better, and nobody was talking about that. How to use IR slots, how to use your last spot on your bench, how to strategize, what to do. Kyren Williams has helped a lot of people, and they did not know about it, and he's helped me out a lot. But nothing against Kyren Williams other than the data and the facts. He's still the man right now, but Blake Corum is coming in. Blake Corum has been looking nasty. He's been looking good, and he's a good prospect. He's got a lot of similarities to Kyren Williams, and we're going to talk about that today, and I got some good data on Blake Corum that's going to keep you interested in him. But coming out of high school, 4-star prospect, one of the top running backs in our class. Ohio State tried to get him, but we went to Michigan. 4.4 40-yard dash, decent production out of high school. We go to Michigan. And then in 2022, we blast off 1,400 yards, 18 touchdowns. That was our big season. That's the season you want to look at there. That 2022 season, 3.35 yards after contact per attempt after all that work. 36 carries at 10-plus yards. Longest carry, 61 yards. 65 missed tackles forced. This guy was nasty. It's that junior season you want to look at. We'll get into that here in a minute. But we come back that next year, we're productive. 27 touchdowns, 1,200 yards, 15 games. Took some time for us to ramp it up. In the passing game, we were running a fair amount of routes here. Over 100 routes per season in the last 3 seasons. Yards after the catch per reception, 8.1, 8.7. Pretty good. Pretty solid. Not top tier like 10, 11, 12, but pretty solid. Also, not racking up a ton of catches, but we're getting a lot of work. The big deal about that 2022 season is we hurt our knee, and we could not play against Ohio State, and that impacted our ability to come out for the draft. On top of that, we had to have some ramp-up time that next year. On top of that, sometimes when you get a devastating injury, it takes more than just a year. It takes some time before you start feeling yourself. So now you're starting to see him feel himself more right now on the field compared to last year, compared to the year prior because of this injury. And it sometimes takes a little bit of time. If you never had a big injury, ask somebody how they felt during and after that and how long it took for them to start feeling themselves. He's back to himself right now. And when he was himself, second among all running backs in rushing, first in touchdowns, 5th in missed tackles, yards after contact, 4th. One of the top running backs in all of college football. And you look at his athletic specs, they're good, they're solid. Are they elite? No. But what we like about him is the same way we like Kyren Williams. Very dependable at all phases. Good at all phases. Decent size, very gritty, lunch pail, running back prospect. That's what the Rams like about him. That's why they spent a 3rd-round pick on him. That's why we were excited about him last year. We talked about him a lot last year. And there's a lot of reasons why, because you look at this backfield and the running backs behind Kyren Williams last year and the year prior, it wasn't so great, and they got excited spending a 3rd-round pick on Blake Corum. And now you're looking at Jarquez Hunter, Probably going to get the Blake Corum treatment this year. He had a very good training camp this year. But players in this system, Kyren Williams included, needed a year to ramp up. Kyren Williams is the man. He's the man. He gets the workload. He gets the touches. He gets the opportunity. Averaging about 17 points per game in the last year or so. He's getting a lot of opportunities. It's starting to reduce a little bit, but still he's getting a lot of workload in this offense. That's something to point out. He is dependable. Sean McVay loves him. He's going to be the man. He also got that contract, but you're looking at the advanced analytics. The workload has decreased a little bit. His snap share 7th among running backs. As we'll get in the last year's stats, that's a little bit of a reduction there. You're also looking at efficiency metrics. 24th among running backs in true yards per carry, 29th in yards per touch. Yards created 11th, but yards created per touch 27th. Fantasy football-wise, we're still living off volume. Evaded tackles versus carries, I'm starting to watch that a little bit more. That's a new thing that's starting to trend up to me. I think that's looking actually good. Evaded tackles 22, 5th among running backs, and he's 5th among running backs in carries. I'm going to monitor those two stats to see if there's any trends when we put them together. And then when you look at last year, and he wasn't efficient last year. 32nd in true yards, 47th in yards per touch, 15th yards created, 52nd yards created per touch, but number 1 in snap share among all running backs. Number 3 in carries, getting that work, getting that volume. That is something to look at. 7th in evaded tackles, he can make guys miss. That is something to pay attention to, but the workload is decreasing. Hunter is a very good running back prospect. Good vision, good athleticism. Watch him for next year. Watch him just in case his backfield breaks down. If I'm in a 16-teamer and I'm looking for a stash because Corum should be gone, Hunter's a stash play. I would be stashing the backup running backs in this offense because this offense can move the pace here. Good size, good athleticism, good production to his name. We're looking at what Blake Corum's doing now. Like I'm saying, there's a little trend here when it comes to the carries and evaded tackles when you mix the rankings together. 35th in evaded tackles versus 49th in carries. So there's a trend there, and he's been looking good on the tape. So the tape is lending the notion that, hey, there's something there with those numbers. True yards per carry, number 1. Yards created, 44th, but his yards created per touch, not enough touches to get there on the sample, but 5.13. That's a huge number. That's a huge number. That's a massive number. And when you go back to the tape and you look at that and you're looking at Blake Corum, you're like, yeah, this guy's been stellar. He's been eating workload. He's been getting better. You're seeing the numbers ramp up from last year as it's consistent and it's higher. His last 2 games are higher than anything he did last year when it comes to fantasy production. And now when you take the start of Blake Corum's career with the start of Kyren Williams' career, you see a little mirror here as the production's very low in the start, and then you see some pop-ups. He's got to contend with Kyren Williams, where Kyren Williams didn't have to contend with Kyren Williams, but you're seeing that, and that's a trend in this offense where you look at Hunter, you look at Corum, where you may not think they're duty cheeks now that you know that they got a long ramp-up period before Sean McVay starts to trust them and starts to allow them to get meaningful touches on the field. That is something to pay attention to throughout the whole season as we're watching the shares of this backfield divvy up for this year and even next year. Puka Nacua and Devonta Adams is going to drive the ship. When they're splashing, they are swimming. Those running backs are going to swim a lot of miles when these two guys are splashing deep downfield. And whether it is Kyren Williams or whether it is Blake Corum or it is Hunter, as long as these guys are driving the ship, they're going to be okay. And you're looking at the rushing production right now. Blake Corum's averaging 7.1 yards per carry and 14 carries. Small sample, different window of opportunities and carries, but still, those are good numbers. A 17% share of the rushing attempts, 9% share of the opportunities, 37% share of Kyren Williams. Kyren Williams' opportunities, touches, snaps are reducing a little bit due to this. So that's going to make him a little bit more volatile this year in fantasy football unless we revert back to last year, leading all running backs in snaps, opportunity, pass blocking snaps, everything, like being top 3 in everything when it comes to work, that's hard to do. That is very hard to maintain multiple years in a career, especially when you got your second year, third round running back, just being efficient. Why not keep Kyren Williams upright? So you might catch some volatility from Kyren Williams, as we've already seen it in this 3-game sample. But the thing is, if Kyren Williams goes down, you're going to want Blake Corum. You're going to want Blake Corum. If you got Kyren Williams, you should stash Blake Corum now, because you saw what happened with Trey Benson. When I did my Trey Benson video earlier this week, nobody watched it because everybody knew they were blowing the fab. They did not have to watch it to guess whether or not they were just going to do it. That's why that video didn't hit, because it was so trendy. Everybody knew what they were going to do. They were going to spend up on him. Same thing for Blake Corum. Same thing with this offense. If you got Kyren Williams, you do not have to fight the fab. The thing is, though, you may not have room for a stash. You may not like stashes. May be dependent on your strategy. I believe, and really it is like the sole purpose of this channel, really, is to have one spot at least. 2, you've got to try to do. 3, maybe max in your traditional 12-team league. After you get past 3, you're kind of getting kind of crazy. This is a good year for 3 if you want to try and do it. It's very good for 2 this year. 1 is pretty much something you have to do, just have one stash player. A guy like Blake Corum sitting there just in case. And if you want to identify the top stashes, check this video right here, because I talked about that the other day. I'll probably drop a video like this every week or every other week. There shouldn't be too many changes unless there's a lot of injuries. But again, he's one of the top stash running backs right now. And he's in a prime offense. He's got prime wide receivers to buoy him. He's looking good. He's looking efficient. He's a guy that should be rostered right now in all leagues as a stash. But all leagues don't always stash. But you need to be stashing and cashing. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I want to hear about that. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. Thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.